Hi, Brandon.
Hi. Okay. Yes. Welcome to the bonus episode. Here we are. So, normally bonus episodes are done right after we're done having that discussion. In this instance, it's like 9 years later.
It's been 9 years. Yes.
9 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not literally, but long ass time. Yeah. Talked about the Strokes last, but the important thing and the exciting thing to talk about is that the next episode that's coming out is the first one of our first annual Reggae Summer.
Reggae Summer, y'all.
Reggae Summer, which I'm hoping ends up being a first annual. I think it's...
Why not?
Yeah.
We already
were... Cool idea.
Yeah. Me and Brandon have like kind of preliminarily picked... We're going to do 6 albums in like a short series for playback. And we're calling it Reggae Summer. So the next 6 episodes are all going to be reggae albums. And me and Brandon have basically picked the 6 albums that we're going to do. And we figure, since you guys are our loyal patrons, all 3 of you or whoever actually watches these videos, we figure you guys don't need to hear about the Strokes. You already listen to the Strokes. You have Matty Greg's channel. You can watch all his cool Strokes content if you want more of that. Yeah. Let's talk about.
Let's look forward. Let's put the past behind us.
Yes.
Let's be forward looking.
Especially because the Strokes episode for us was literally a month ago. So we have nothing to say about it anyway. So who cares? Me and Brandon, we were right before we jumped on. We were just thinking to ourselves, what were the 6? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the 6 reggae albums we're gonna do for playback this summer.
Because we still wanted to keep the structure of it. It goes back and forth. Brandon pick and Nate pick. Well, actually, Nate pick first, and then me, and going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But each one of us gets 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you chose first, and I think very astutely, very wisely. Something that I probably wouldn't have done because I'm far too snooty and have my head up my own ass. But you did what I think objectively is the right thing to do, which is to start with Bob Marley.
Yes, start with Bob Marley, duh. And I know that starting with a Bob Marley album is almost gonna make me seem like this guy's like a reggae poser, like he doesn't even fucking like what you were just saying, like we both were thinking of like what are like the coolest, hippest, most like
deep.
But here's the thing, Bob Marley is all 4 Beatles rolled into one. You know what I mean? Like he is the figurehead of reggae. Like if you're for the first episode in a series like this, I think he is most people's way into reggae. He was certainly my entry point into reggae music, real reggae music at least. So I chose Exodus by Bob Marley. So next week's episode will be the first in our series of reggae albums for the summer, and we're going to do Exodus by Bob Marley. I figured just because, in my opinion, it's probably his most well-rounded album. It's probably his most well-crafted album. Might even be
the highest number of famous songs on it.
I think so too, yeah. Like the only other one, and we kind of talked about this, that would have been like a no-brainer would have been to do Legend. Because if Legend was like an actual album and not a greatest hits album, it would be like literally the best album ever made ever. And for my money, it's the best greatest hits album that exists. Like it's
I've never thought about that's a good call, man.
It is. I think it's the best greatest hits album ever released.
Wow. Yeah.
Because how many people do you think mistake that for just like a Bob Marley album? They don't even know that it's not a Bob Marley album. It's a greatest hits album, right? Because that's how well it is like composed, like track listing wise, and the choices they pick, and like his discography just really like he's not like a lot of artists where like every album his sound like radically changes, and he's like he was like a really like consistent. It's very cohesive. It's very consistent. The way he changed was very slow. It wasn't like super abrupt ever. Like Bob Marley had like a sound, and he was really good at it, and he perfected it by the end of his life. That would have been cool, but I kind of am of the opinion that we shouldn't do greatest hits albums on this show. We should do like real albums.
Okay.
So that's why I chose
that is a bridge that we would have had to cross at one point or another, because there was definitely
there's some that are cool.
Because there's another one that might be the number 2, number 3 greatest greatest hits album of all time. ABBA Gold.
That's true. See, that's another great one. Yeah, ABBA Gold is amazing. That's one that I've been like, I want to do that on playback. I want to do ABBA. I know a lot of people like the Beatles. It's called like it's like the Beatles 1 or something like that.
Beatles 1, yeah.
And I can never understand why you would listen to the Beatles that way.
I completely agree with you, because in my opinion, Bob Marley and ABBA. Well, okay, I'll say this more so for ABBA, where it's like those great songs that you just want to fucking hear. You just want to put them on. You just want to listen to them in succession. You really do have to hunt. There's like 1 or 2 of them on each album.
Yeah.
And you gotta pick through.
Yeah.
That's also the same of Bob Marley, meaning like his super smash hits are sprinkled across the albums. Mm-hmm. But in the case of him, I think all those other album tracks are of really, really high quality.
True. Yeah.
Other than my controversial take about Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
But
with the Beatles, it's like you're like
that's not the case.
No, you're robbing yourself.
Each album, you don't need to take them apart. Just listen to the whole album.
Yeah, listen
those
to the
songs
whole one.
Sound better with each other.
Yeah, they made 9 greatest hits albums, right? And they're called each Beatles album.
Seriously, and with Legend and with Gold, they're really amazing. Whoever picked those track listings did an amazing job.
Great job, yeah.
And those songs sound better in grouped together that way than they do on their albums.
Yeah.
And with the Beatles, any greatest hits picking that you could make of the Beatles, it's not true. They sound better on their albums with their album songs.
I agree. Yeah. So we're doing. I'm realizing right now I'm struggling to remember all the ones I picked.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go back and forth. Because I do remember my first one, and I will probably need a second to remember my 2 and 3 also.
I'm gonna look and make sure we don't have a note on Reggae Summer. Okay. But yes. What is your?
I don't think we've read it. We may have texted it to each other. It's probably in our text message thread. But
you tell me your pick, and I'll look.
This first annual Reggae Summer, we did decide all 6 of them are from Jamaica. All 6 of them are from like the mid 70s to the early 80s. So it's all like golden era roots reggae. Yeah. Like music.
I found it.
You found it. Okay.
Yes, I've got us.
So number 2 pick, my first one is Night Nurse by Gregory Isaacs.
I'm probably most excited for this one.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Of all the records.
¿Por qué?
Because I was not really into Gregory Isaacs before we started making music together like regularly. Okay, I can't remember what album we were working on together where we like specifically listened to Night Nurse to like try to get like that sound. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Was it like the Radiohead one or something?
Yes.
Was that it?
Yes. It was. Because there's a really great YouTuber named Donstrumental. Mm-hmm. His entire YouTube channel is about... Oh, hang on.
Brandon's house is exploding. That was a bomb.
Sorry for that excruciating noise. That's my very high-tech mixer in my studio. Donstrumental... His entire YouTube channel is dedicated to reggae bass playing and nothing but. And at the time when we were working on that Radiohead one, he just put out a video about Flabba Holt and his bass playing and how to play reggae bass like Flabba Holt, who's the bass player of the Roots Radics, who is the backing band on Night Nurse.
Right.
And so it was fresh in my mind. I was super excited about it. So basically, whatever EP it was that we were working on at that time, I was gonna force this down the throat and implement it regardless. But yeah.
That was probably the first time I ever really dug into Night Nurse. And that was also the last time I listened to Night Nurse. I haven't listened to it since then. So I'm just kind of like, I'm really stoked because I loved it. and it's a classic for a reason, and like it's just very exciting, and it kind of does like the 80s reggae sound in like such a fresh, like cool way, like not in like a lame way, you know what I mean? Like
and I think it's also too a pretty unique sound. It has a very unique sound, very unique vibe, which a lot of albums, from that era coming out of Jamaica, it's very rare to find an album that sounds completely unique, because so many of the records were made at the same studio,
same band,
right? So albums sort of come out in groups sonically,
right.
like albums that were recorded sort of in the same few months together by kind of the same crew. And, there's like little eras and little moments happening where these 6 albums have the same vibe and the same tonality and everything. But Night Nurse is very like, and, obviously we'll get into it, but it sounds unique.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's cool. And, Gregory Isaacs like just passed, right? In the last couple of years. Didn't he just die?
I think he died in 2020.
Yeah, it was like not too long ago.
When did he die?
Yeah, he's just the shit. He's really cool. And he's so like stylish. He's just such a cool like front man.
No, he died 15 years ago, actually.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah.
I was way off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just such a cool front man and such a good singer. Like, there's just like so much like good stuff to like dig into with him. And like I'm really, as far as like all like the greats go, like he's just one. Like, I'm excited to dive into his like other work too. Like, I don't really know much of his stuff, to be honest. I knew Night Nurse. I was familiar with it, and then I finally listened to it, and I loved it. But I'm really excited to kind of listen to some of his other stuff to kind of contextualize it a little better too.
It's very diverse. He worked with a lot of producers. He recorded for a lot of labels. He wasn't an artist that had like a real strong loyalty to one production house or label or anything. He really moved around a lot. And he, like you say, he's a fucking legend, man. I mean, he is. Whenever someone is having the conversation of like, there's more to reggae than just Bob Marley and Jimmy Cliff and Peter Tosh, man. Then they start listing. For example, there's da, 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 and da. Like, Gregory Isaacs is normally one of the first 2 or 3 names that they will say.
Yeah.
So, like, among reggae heads, he's on the Mount Rushmore.
Yes. Yeah. So, I would say, like, for the rest of our picks, like going down the list, they are for the reggae heads. Like, if you're not a reggae head, if you get into these albums, you will be.
Right.
You will be.
You will be.
Yeah. So
I'm not a reggae head.
You will be.
Will be.
Yeah. So my next pick is 2/7's Clash by Culture. Which is
it's
probably
for the reggae heads.
It's for the reggae heads. I like to me it's crazy that like I don't know how to feel about this one, because this one is so good. It is such a phenomenal album.
This is like a jaw open while you're listening to it album.
Like
it's playing and you're just like, what the fuck?
Every single track on this album is so catchy. It is so like, the band is so like committed to like the messaging of it. And on top of that, like the whole like mythology surrounding it is so fascinating to me.
I'm interested and I'm excited for you to teach me more about it that I don't know.
It was basically 2/7's Clash was released in the 7th month of 1977. And they basically wrote this album as like an apocalyptic prophecy that they thought like basically there was some kind of rapture-esque like world-ending event going to happen on the date that the album came out. Obviously that didn't happen, but it's there. There's like this religious like zealotry in the music that is like so much further beyond just like the chill like Jah Rastafari like peace praise be to he kind of shit like in like Bob Marley, you know. This is like really like like Peter Tosh was like militant. This isn't. I wouldn't say militant.
It's not militant. Yeah.
It is like religious, like it's zealotry, like fervor.
What is? Yeah, what's that term? It's like exuberance or something.
Like evangelical.
It's like you're right. When someone is in a like a religious euphoria.
Yes.
And they're just like speaking in tongues, and they're just like they're just taken over by the Spirit and just shaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yes.
This is probably the most like hardcore like Jah Rastafarian like album that I ever got into. I'm not saying there's not more hardcore ones out there. Like because
it doesn't get any more.
It doesn't get much more hard
than this album.
It doesn't, yeah. And like I'm even like on record. I'm not really much of like a Rasta guy. Like clearly. And what I mean by that
neither
is
one of us are in any way actual practitioners of the faith. No.
Right. No, not at all. But I more mean like even like when it comes to the reggae that I like to listen to, a lot of it isn't like the on the kind of more rootsy Jah like kind of religious like side of it. As much as I'll admit, there's so much fucking good stuff that kind of delves into that. But if I were to if I had to pick one, this would be the one that I would pick. This is like a desert island disc for me, like big time.
That's so exciting, dude. I totally forgot that this one is on the list. Come to think of it, I think all the rest of the other three are going to come as a surprise to me in this moment right now because I can barely even remember. Oh, I remembered the last one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 4, which was my second pick. Let me guess. I think it was Right Time by Mighty Diamonds.
No, it was you picked.
Oh, no, I remember.
You remember?
Fuck yes. Yeah. I'm so excited. No, it's fucking Firehouse Rock.
Yes.
Wailing Souls.
By Wailing Souls.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
This low-key might be, in my opinion, or just my favorite.
Yeah.
If I just had to pick, not trying to say it's objectively the best, but just personally, my favorite reggae album.
Yes.
Is probably this. The Wailing Souls, Firehouse Rock.
I agree because for me, I came to this album. I'm sure that you turned me on to this album, but the crazy thing is for anybody who loves Scientist Rids the World of the Evil Curse of the Vampires, much of that album, not all of it, but a lot of that album is just dubs of these songs on Firehouse Rock.
It's like about half of the album, maybe like just under half of the album.
It's about half, and then I forget what the rest of it is, but it's other good stuff. But
a lot of them are from an album called Gunman by Michael Prophet.
Right, yep.
And then there's a couple songs that are from a Johnny Osborne album that I can't remember. But
talk about expert, perfect curation. That's probably the best selection of dub tracks from a bunch of releases that like are only loosely related, maybe. I don't even know.
Well, again, like how we were talking about how a lot of times in Jamaica albums were, made, grown in 6-packs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's what it was.
Seriously, like all 3 of those albums are same producer, same backing band, same studio.
That's why.
Probably recorded within fucking weeks or months of each other.
Yeah.
You know?
So Firehouse Rock, fucking amazing record. Perfect like harmonies, killer band, killer songs. Just like, I've listened to this album a million times since you showed it to me. But it's funny because I already loved it like by proxy. Like it was so funny listening to it because I'm like, oh yes, I love this song. It's the first time I've heard it, but I love it
because of how much of the music is on the Scientist record. Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
And anyone who's ever played Grand Theft Auto 3 and listened to K-Jaw will recognize almost all the songs on this album.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little sad we didn't do Rids the World of the Evil Curse of the Vampires for this first Reggae Summer, because if I'm being honest, if we're talking my favorite and honestly what I would consider maybe one of the best reggae releases ever, it is that.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to go into dub specifically this summer yet. I think next summer, maybe we each do like a dub pick or something like that, because I have dub albums I could pick all day long that I would want to do.
Me too. I would probably, my pick for dub, since I'm sure you're going to do that one.
I would, yeah.
I would probably choose a Lee Scratch Perry dub album just to get us started.
Yeah.
You know, as our first 2 dub albums.
But also, though, if you're only doing 2, how do you leave out fucking King Tubby? You know?
Well, they how I rationalize it to myself is because Scientist is King Tubby's protege. So you then get the balance of the Tubby planet of dub.
Yeah.
And then
I think the thing is,
just
though,
to demonstrate that there are other whole approaches to the concept of dub, and
it's tough though, because like Scientist and Lee Perry are both super weird artists, just kind of in their own way. And by weird, I just mean like really creative. You know what I mean? Whereas Tubby was like really straightforward. Like all his dubs were like King Tubby with this band.
Yep.
And it's like, but it's like
this
the best
is a dub album, and it consists of songs of King Tubby dubbing this artist.
Yes,
from this studio.
But like,
proceed.
But there's but like, because like, you know, like every Scientist album is like, Scientist is stuck in a Pac-Man box. Like Scientist is running for president. Scientist in a boxing match. Scientist fucking plays soccer. Yes. Scientist fights vampires. Lee Perry is like
performs an appendectomy.
Yeah, and Lee Perry is like Lee Perry, the Western gunslinger. Lee Perry, the gigantic ape man. Lee Perry serves catfish and grits. Lee Perry is a kung fu master, and then it's like King Tubby dubs band.
Reggae songs.
Dubs reggae songs. It's like, okay, yeah.
That's a good point.
So it'd be tough not to pick him, but then at the same time, his dubs are like so clean and pristine, and like the textbook definition of like, if you want to learn how to dub something, you never could dub like him because he's like as good as it gets. Like I certainly can't.
It absolutely, man. It's so rare, I feel, to find that the person who was kind of like the originator of a certain craft is the insurmountable one also, you know, like
yeah, it's true.
Normally the person who peaked in whatever art form or whatever craftsman thing was not they came a generation or two after the person who originated it and who started it, you know.
It'd be like the
true
equivalent
master comes later. But with King Tubby, it's, you know, the first original one nobody ever touched and nobody ever will be able to make dubs of such fucking quality.
Yeah, it's true.
And
it's
tastefulness.
True. You know, I'm sure the Firehouse Rock conversation will dovetail into plenty of dub talk though. By the nature of kind of what it's related to. So that'll be super fun.
But for these first 6, we did consciously say, okay, we're not going to do no dub albums. Let's do, you know, artist
no dub
albums.
No dub, no rocksteady, no ska. We're doing like roots reggae. Yeah.
Start in the center, start in the middle, and then we'll go out from there as we go.
We even thought like because we're going to try and do this every year. There could be a summer where we do like white boy reggae summer, like summer from like England or reggae from like England. You know what I mean? Like we do like Madness and the Specials and fucking the Clash and like do like shit like that. UB40.
I would love to do UB40.
Me too.
And we can you know, bring in American artists too. We have to do at least 2 Sublime albums.
I know.
In the lifetime of this show.
Me and Brandon have been threatening each other with finally sacking up and recording our 40 Ounces to Freedom episode.
Yeah.
But we haven't done it. It's been like 2 years of us wanting to do it, but we've never done it.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so then my third and final pick, my third pick of the summer, speaking of Lee Scratch Perry, Heart of the Congos by
Oh my God.
the Congos. Talk about, so when I just, first off, Heart of the Congos is a very special record for me because when I was 18, I sold my entire CD collection to start, and which was like hundreds of CDs. I sold them all back to Boo Boo Records, which is where I got all of them. And I exchanged hundreds of CDs for about 20 records because they were all new.
Vinyl. LPs.
Vinyl records, yeah. Because they were all new, so it was like I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't looking for like deals. I bought a bunch of new records. One of the first records I ever bought, one was the Harder They Come by Jimmy Cliff. I think that might have been the very first one, but the second one I bought was Heart of the Congos by the Congos. And
that must have been life-changing.
Well,
I still remember the first. This is one of those albums that is like you remember the first time you saw like 2001: A Space Odyssey or something.
Yes.
This album is like that. I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I want to like spoil it, but like for me, like I don't know a ton about the Congos as a band. Because for me, this album is all about Lee Scratch Perry. Like it is, or at least he's certainly like a huge, like massive part of the story of this album. It is, for my money, it's the pinnacle of his career. It's the best thing he ever did. It's the best thing he was ever a part of. It's better than all of his dub albums. It's better than anything he did with Marley. It's the best thing he ever did. It is absolutely a work of art in the truest sense. And you want to talk about like a religious kind of feeling album. This has that, but to me, this album, it feels like the album itself is like a religious artifact. It feels like it's like the Ark of the Covenant or something.
Yeah,
like it is.
Yeah,
it is wild.
This is the auditory. So it sounds like how the Ark of the Covenant looks and feels in the Indiana Jones movie. Yeah,
it does. It has that kind of feel to it, and like I don't want to spoil too much because just like the way this album was treated, and I mean the physical tape of it, like. The shit that they did in the studio, they did in the studio to get the sound of this album onto tape is remarkable. It is unlike, I would venture to say, no other studio ever was treated quite in the way that this album was treated, like to make this album. Like it's bizarre. It's really bizarre, and the fact that it works so well and it sounds so good. This album is like one of one. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
Like even the other Lee Perry albums he was working on around the same time as this one, they're not quite like this. They have a little bit of that stank of it on those, but like, you know, like we I'm sure through this album we'll talk about like the Holy Trinity albums, and I've always found it funny that this is not considered among the Holy Trinity when this is better than probably all three of those albums.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to get into the backstory of this album because like how you're saying the Culture album, the backstory is just as
it's so interesting
as the music.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really excited about for Heart of the Congos because you know, like you said, it was very much the pinnacle, that reaching that high, the peak of the mountain of Lee Perry's entire career and, you know, life's work building up to that point. And this album was like the breaking point of like the cresting of a wave. And it can be divided, like, you know, his career after and his career before.
Yes.
Heart of the Congos. And the backstory is so interesting because it's a very like yin and yang type of thing. You know, the sweet and the bitter, the good and the bad, and the you know, because it is when you learn about the backstory, it is at the same time the greatest thing and like the most
the worst thing that happened to him.
And yeah, right, and like one of the worst experiences of his life, not just personally, but also like in terms of the integrity of his artisticness, of his artistry. And it's such a fascinating, interesting, complicated, and dichotomy-filled story, and
a story that like it really leaves you with more questions than answers. Like I think by the end of it, like it's like, did he have some kind of religious experience making this? Did he have like a mental break? Did this making this like break his brain? Like, because he was already, I think it's fair to say Lee Perry was probably living with some kind of undiagnosed possible mental illness or some form of autism maybe, or just like something, you know, that like they never would have figured out in Jamaica in the 70s. But like, it's crazy because like he only becomes like more erratic and more like outwardly crazy by my perception after this.
Well, this is going to be a great thing to get into, because
it will. It's going to be a fun one.
There is that whole thing, which is, and I'm going to lean heavily on one documentary in particular where he really talks a lot about the period of time of making Heart of the Congos.
Yeah.
And just this entire documentary in particular, it's called I Am the Upsetter.
Yes, I remember watching that. I think we watched that together when we lived together like 10 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, we went to some. They were playing it in some like community center or something when it came out.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest takeaways from that was that I realized that I had just always assumed that Lee Perry's eccentricness was the result of some kind of like mania or some kind, or, you know, quote unquote, he's crazy.
Yeah.
And it really, one of my biggest takeaways was like how fucking cogent he is and how straight his recollection of the events of his life is, and how just like straightly in his mind he's able to explain and talk about his what he creates.
Right.
And it just made me realize that he's just like a very, very colorful creative artist, you know? He's
a lot like dub robot Brian Wallace in that way. Like, just life is performance art, basically. Which I've always found so inspiring.
But yeah. Oh damn! What else was I going to say about that? Oh well. I thought I had another.
Yeah, I can't wait to rewatch that, because I don't remember anything about that documentary, but I remember when it came out and I remember loving it. I think this summer I'm going to watch like 100 documentaries about reggae shit. I think that's like all I'm going to do this summer is watch a bunch of cool reggae documentaries. But yeah, it's a very interesting one. If you guys have never heard Heart of the Congos, if it didn't even have all this whole backstory and Lee Perry and all this stuff, it would still be like an 11 out of 10 album. But the fact that it does have this really tangled web of just like how they made it, why they chose to do certain things is like really good.
It could be, but I mean, it wasn't. Oh, wait. I was going to say a crime didn't happen, but actually a crime did take place. And the whole story leading up to it could be like a serial style, like true crime podcast about, you know, like a S-Town type of a podcast about this album and everything behind it. Because you know, so it was one of the greatest albums, if not the greatest, recorded at the Black Ark studio.
Right.
Lee Perry studio, which he ultimately burned down.
Yeah.
And the making of this album either, you know, indirectly or literally directly led to him burning the studio down.
But he burned it down himself, right? Supposedly, isn't that it? He burned it down.
No, he just straight up says, like, I burned it down, and this is why.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, so I don't know if it is a crime actually, because
it could be.
You know,
there could be fraud
to me.
It
was my property, and I burned it down. You know,
right?
Like,
Obviously, I'm not alleging this or anything, but like, who knows? There could have been fraud or something. He could have like owed someone money. He could have owed rent. I don't know. He just said, "Oops, burned down. Got to go to." Now I'm moving to Switzerland for the rest of my life, which is or was it Sweden? I can't remember which one.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
But and we'll get into it in this episode. But
it's wild. That's going to be a fun.
His explanation for why did you set fire to the studio
is wild.
It's because of fucking the Congos and the making of this album, and it's really fascinating.
Really good.
But I remembered what I lost my train of thought on before.
Okay.
One of my favorite things about this whole backstory is like when you get into it, it's just how humanizing it is to all of these guys. Because all these reggae musicians and all these great singers and producers and everything, you know, they come from a foreign land to us, you know, who are from America and everything. And they take on a very mythological status, you know, we just really imagine them as, you know, people who were just, you know, created in a lab to make reggae, and they made great music, and that's all they were. They were just magical, amazing reggae making thing. You know, like you don't really like understand someone when they're like a celebrity to you, you know?
Right.
But the whole story of this and the dynamics between people involved in the making of this album is so like humanizing. And it just like you could imagine these different characters and these different personalities involved. You can like map them onto like people that you know. Yeah. And like you could imagine yourself in being involved in this situation. It's really interesting.
We're going to have to figure out a way when we do that episode to like, in a not reading the Wikipedia page way, to like recount the major events of the story, because we try to avoid that on the show of like just feeling like we're reading to you or something.
He was we're always born in 1954 in the town of Mostly I literally turn off YouTube videos whenever it's like a cool thumbnail, cool title, cool topic that I'm interested in, and I start it, and they start doing that. Bob Dylan was born. I'm like, fuck this. I just turn it off. Like, I already know where this is going.
We'll have to think of how to do it, because it's like, you know, there's a lot to talk. There's a lot to chew on with all the backstory of that. But anyway, we'll get there later in the summer. So your third and final pick is, do you remember what it is? I have it in front of me. Okay.
It's the album 96 Degrees in the Shade.
That's right.
By Third World. Yes.
I'm very excited for this one, because I own a copy of this on vinyl. I've probably only listened to it once or twice, but your description of it to me, I think I listened to it like very casually, like in the background. I didn't like give it like a very intense listen. Your description of it to me, though, really hooked me the last time we talked about it, which was that it is essentially, in your opinion, like the dark side of the moon of reggae. Like it is like
this album is Jamaica's Dark Side of the Moon.
I love that.
Yeah, it's So I wanted to kind of in our 6 picks just kind of portray the diversity that is within just this golden era of roots reggae, you know? Right. Because I really think that a big misconception about reggae is that a lot of the music is very, very, very similar. Yeah. And so I wanted to, with our picks, to, you know, kind of show the wide palette of colors that are in there. And so this one is so interesting because the people who made it, you know, they're no less Rasta. They're no less purely Jamaican than any of the other musicians in all of our other picks. But their background is a bit different. They are, I don't know if all of them, but certainly the key members of the band come from a more privileged background and come from more wealthy families and grew up in kind of a you know, more highfalutin part of town than a lot of the other albums that we're talking about. You know, roots reggae is accurately known to be ghetto music. You know, music that is made by generally impoverished people by global standards. So this album is so interesting because you can hear as soon as you turn it on, in comparison to the other albums we're going to be talking about, you go from Heart of the Congos and you put on 96 Degrees in the Shade, you can hear the money.
Yeah.
You can hear the budget.
Yeah.
That these other albums just don't fucking have.
Yeah.
You can hear the, like...
It's true. A lot of these albums sound real, like 27's Clash has that same kind of like really raggedy sound. Like it's just like it doesn't sound bad. It's just like it sounds like almost like a punk album or something. It's just really rough around the edges, like very harsh and
27's Clash is like just like a great punk record. It's like you can feel it. That somebody just got some microphones on a band and just captured them in a moment.
Yeah.
This album sounds like it was recorded in one afternoon.
Yes.
Of just these, like, and just captured a perfectly crystallized moment of a band that was having just the best day of their lives and just rocked it. But
and even like Heart of the Congos sounds kind of cheap, but on like the other side of the spectrum in like a very lo-fi way. Like it's very like soft and like like somber and murky. Like, man.
96 Degrees in the Shade is very similar to like a mid to late 70s Pink Floyd record. It's very it moves like a concept album. There's like little interludes and shit and like sound effects and like some of the songs are not what's typical for a reggae album from this era, or from any era really, which is the whole track listing is song, 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 song. Just a collection of songs with intros and verses and choruses, and then they fade out. And that's what it is. No, some of the songs are just like a meditation on one little idea. They don't have verses. They don't have, the structure of each one is different, and it makes like an arrangement across the album, just like in a very Dark Side of the Moon type of a way.
Yeah,
and there's musical ideas. Meaning in terms of like the chords and the melodies and even the instrumentation and you can just tell like they got some musical influence and maybe some education from some other sources that the other musicians than the places where the other musicians are getting their musical education. It just I don't know, man. It's amazing, and it's so different than all of the work that their contemporaries were doing in the ghetto. And you would think that you would end up with something that's a little bit more like less authentic and less Rasta. But it's not.
Interesting.
It like these guys maybe didn't grow up living as rough, but they are no less connected to like the message and the movement.
Yeah, wow,
it's amazing.
I'm excited for this one. This is the one I'm probably least familiar with of all six. This is the one I know the least about. I'm like I've certainly haven't listened to it as much as all the other ones, but I'm really excited about it based on your prognosis of it being Pink Floyd-esque. I love that.
I would hate to have to make us wait so long for it if it weren't for how fucking critical the first five are. Like we have to, what I mean? All the other albums on the list are like, no, those are more important. We have to do those first.
Yeah. But I mean, I think you put it very well a minute ago when you said that like our goal for this is to like display the diversity, the range, how distinct all these different sounds and characters and bands and albums are and can be, like to show people the variety and how exciting and different and how much like nuance like you can find in the genre of reggae. Like, so one of the most annoying things to me I always run across is like people that just write reggae off because I think they're like prematurely bored with it because they've been conditioned by, you know, society and the music scene in the United States at large as just like reggae is Bob Marley and Bob Marley is reggae. And if you know that, then you know everything there is to know. And yeah, you're right to be bored, you know?
And specifically legend.
Yeah, and specifically legend. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I think our goal for this is to, one, we've always wanted to like kind of keep playback anchored from like a reggae centric place, while also giving ourselves the leeway and the freedom to, you know, explore any album in any genre that we want. But like, I'll speak for myself. I certainly use these episodes as like just a way to like just add things to my back pocket for like, how are we going to make our next, you know, reggae album? You know what I mean? Like, it's always as a way to like, you know, educate myself to further like make our reggae music more interesting, you know? Because I know that reggae music has the capacity to be like endlessly interesting as a genre. Exactly. You know what I mean?
And we're only talking about like the Roots era.
Yeah.
We're only talking about one sliver of the whole story.
Yes. Yeah. We're not doing dance hall. We're not really doing like rocker stuff aside from, I guess, Wailing Souls is kind of rockers. It's so very rockers and Night Nurse. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So that's good. That's good.
There's only one song on Night Nurse that has a one drop.
Okay. Yeah. But you know, we're not doing ska or rocksteady. You know, we're not doing
reggae
or early reggae. Yeah, we're not doing stuff from other countries. So yeah, we're not doing dub, which I certainly was fighting myself over for this summer. It was like, how do we the dub band not do like a dub record? But I think eventually,
well, I mean, not the beginning, but it's not like starting at the beginning. I feel like it's like starting at the heart.
Start at the heart,
in the center of
yes, yeah. Start from the most topic. Like accessible way in, and if you follow us, through these 6 albums and all the albums surrounding these 6 albums that we're going to recommend to you through our blog series. Yeah. You know, which I'm certainly going to need your help with on some of these, to give me some suggestions on some further album homework. But yeah, I mean, I think this summer is going to be our little master's course on this little sliver of reggae.
And we're doing it, you know, on the main feed of the podcast, you know, not only in the bonus episodes and everything, because we're like how we try to do with every episode. We want to make it something that is equally valuable to someone who is not familiar with the music. As much as really, really enjoyable and satisfying for people who are huge into it and love to nerd out on it. Yeah. And you know, maybe learn, you know, some more details and see some new perspectives that you hadn't considered and everywhere in between, you know? Yeah. So, I'm going to try to make it worthwhile for enthusiasts of all levels.
Yeah. No, yeah, and then come September, I'll probably pick like Lou Reed's Metal Machine music or something great, you know, something like that. Do you know what that is?
Nope. I don't even know what that is.
One of the most insane, hard to listen to albums ever made, ever. It is certainly worse than Trout Mask.
I was just gonna say, is it harder to listen to than Trout Mask?
I've never listened to it all the way through. I've only skimmed through it because it's so bad.
Well, that's pretty hard to listen to then.
It's literally like static white noise, kind of, for like 90 minutes. Like it is, and that's all it is. It's really wild.
Are you serious?
Pretty much.
He released an album of literally noise?
It's literally noise, yes. It is. I've never been able to get through it. But yeah, so you can look forward to that once we're done listening to all these super fun reggae albums. We'll get right back to our regularly scheduled programming of super frustrating, annoying art rock albums from me, and probably really technically perfect masterpieces from Brandon. Which I like that. I like that that's what the show is turning into. I think that's fun.
Variety is the spice of life.
Exactly, and everything in between.
Yeah.
All right, I think with that, we're probably good. This is probably one of the better bonus episodes we've ever done. It's like it feels like
agree.
a real episode.
Yeah, I feel like we actually talked about something worth talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
We will do our best. All 2 or 3 of you who listen to these, we'll do our best to keep making these ones better.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right.
Awesome. All right,
Thank
with
you,
that,
patrons. Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Patreon.
As always, you are the best and greatest people in the world.
That's true.
We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you for Reggae Summer.
Reggae Summer, y'all. Bye-bye.
And we're also working on new music, and we'll be releasing it, but you'll see about that later.
Yeah, and Halloween, for Halloween.
Yeah.
Okay.
You really believe that all they want us to do is let them use our planet
Bye-bye,
as a place of exile?
Patreon.
Zandy.